the life I thought I was building. I always imagined that by 24, I would have the world figured out. My career, my relationships, my future. The road ahead felt clear and straightforward. At least that's how I saw it back then. I had always been a planner, an optimist, someone who believed in putting in the work and reaping the rewards. I thought that by now I'd have a stable job, a home, and a life that looked like the ones I saw on TV or read about in books, complete with the love of my life by my side. His name was Ryan, and for 6 years, I truly thought we were inseparable. We were that couple, the ones everyone else looked to and said, they have it figured out. We met young, at 18, when we were both figuring out who we were, navigating the complicated transition from adolescence to adulthood. He was the first person I ever really loved, and the first person who truly saw me, my flaws and all. We moved in together after I graduated college. The transition was seamless. There we were, two 21-year-olds coexisting in a small apartment. At first, it was everything I dreamed of. We had our routines, cooking together, late-night conversations that went until the early hours of the morning, weekends spent exploring new coffee shops and parks. It was easy, comfortable. I thought that was enough. I remember one night in particular, after a long day of work, he pulled me close in bed, his warm breath on my neck, and said, "I can't wait to marry you one day." I believed him. I really did. We had those conversations often, dreaming about our future, the house we'd buy, the kids we'd raise, the holidays we'd celebrate together. It wasn't just casual talk, it felt real. He looked at me like I was his forever. I thought we were forever. The beginning of the end. Looking back now, I can see the small cracks forming long before the break finally came. It wasn't one big moment of betrayal, but a slow unraveling. At first, I thought it was just stress. He was working late more often, staying out with his friends. I told myself he was just busy, getting caught up in life like we all do. But as the months went by, his behavior became more erratic. He started complaining about everything, how I wasn't as fun as I used to be, how I was too serious. Now, how I didn't laugh at his jokes the way I used to. I couldn't understand. It wasn't that what growth was? The kind of growth that comes with building a life together, growing older, taking on more responsibility. But he didn't want to grow up. He wanted to stay in the past, in a version of life that didn't require accountability. And then there were the nights I'd wait for him to come home. I'd sit in bed with my phone, reading articles on education theory, my textbooks scattered on the nightstand, while I listened to him come in late, always smelling faintly of whiskey, his words slurred, his movements unsteady. He'd tell me he was just unwinding with friends. But I knew something was off. The conversations we used to have about marriage, the future, the kids, began to feel like empty promises. I realized I was the only one keeping those dreams alive. He wasn't showing up in the way I needed him to. The discovery. The breaking point came one night in the summer when I found the messages. I wasn't snooping, I wasn't looking for something to accuse him of. But there they were, 13 minutes of voice memos and texts exchanged between him and a woman I barely knew. Her name was Jessica, a 35-year-old woman I'd met only a handful of times, who I thought of as just another casual acquaintance. But these messages told a different story. In the texts, he told her everything. How his best friend and his best friend's girlfriend were offering him a place to meet her, a place where he could escape our relationship, a place where she understood his situation, a situation I couldn't quite understand until that moment. He told her she didn't need to worry about me, that I was just the serious girlfriend who didn't know how to have fun anymore. And as I scrolled through their conversations, my heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my ears. I couldn't look away. I knew what I was reading, but I didn't want to face it. Every word felt like a weight sinking into my chest, each one heavier than the last. There it was, the truth. I went numb. The breakup that was already over. The next day, I sat in our living room, trying to digest what I had just uncovered. When he came home from work, he looked at me like nothing had changed, like everything was fine. But I couldn't pretend anymore. I asked him outright, "Are you seeing someone else?" He didn't even hesitate. He told me it was over, that he'd given everything he could to our relationship, but it wasn't working anymore. He said I wasn't the fun girl he met all those years ago. He said I had changed, that I was too serious now, that I was too much of a teacher, and not enough of the carefree woman he wanted. His words were a blow to my stomach. I sat there, frozen, as he told me it wasn't my fault, just that we had grown apart. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, but instead I stood up, grabbed a suitcase, and started packing. The apartment felt too small, too suffocating. There was no room left for me. I moved out that night. The only place I had to go was my best friend's house. She lived just a few miles away, and I knew she'd take me in without hesitation. She and her family gave me shelter, and for a moment, I felt safe again. But I was also broken. I couldn't understand how everything I thought was real, everything I'd built, could crumble so easily. Another betrayal, worse than the first. 2 weeks later, another friend and I went out for dinner. I could tell she was holding something back, like there was a weight on her chest. Finally, she confessed, "I have to tell you something. It's about Ryan and your best friend. They've been sleeping together." I could barely breathe. It didn't make sense. My best friend? The one who had been living with me? How could she? How could they? She explained how they had been sneaking around behind my back after bowling league nights. That my ex would always drop me off first, and then she would meet him in the parking lot for whatever twisted arrangement they'd concocted. It made me sick. I confronted them both the next day. My ex at least admitted to the truth, starting with a kiss. But when I left, he sent me a text. "Everything's true. My best friend, however, denied it. She looked me in the eyes, tearfully claimed she didn't know what I was talking about. She denied the truth to my face, as if I wasn't the one who had lived through the slow erosion of our relationship. The weight of the truth. I could have been angry. I could have tried to take revenge. But in that moment, all I wanted was for it to end. I wanted to be free of their lies, their manipulation. I wanted the truth to be known, so I could finally begin to heal. The hardest part was that I still loved him. I still missed him. I couldn't just turn off 6 years of emotional investment. The heart doesn't work that way. But I knew I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't go back to someone who had so easily discarded me. And I couldn't continue living under the same roof as someone who had betrayed me so deeply. I had the evidence. The texts, the screenshots, the confessions. I printed it all out and mailed it to her husband, the man who had no idea that his wife was living a double life. I addressed the envelope to him, leaving it on his doorstep. No note, no dramatic gesture, just the truth. Because at the end of the day, he deserved to know. And now it wasn't my burden anymore. What happened next was on them, not me. Healing, slowly. The days that followed were long. I had to start over again. But there was something freeing in that. I wasn't living with the weight of their betrayal anymore. I wasn't the one holding on to the past. I had let it go. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to heal.